What is autonomous stage?
The third and final stage of learning in Fitz and Posner's three-stage of model of learning. So, from transforming what to do into how to do, in autonomous stage, which is the final stage, this is where an athlete skill improvement continues but less rapid and can pay attention and motor performance becomes automatic. However, automaticity creates empty space and working memory, which make it easier for an athlete to unintentionally entertain negative thoughts and ruminate, which mean to repeatedly dwell on negative and unproductive thoughts.
So for today's discussion, let's encounter the three stages in which motor learning occurs. So motor learning has been defined as a set of internal processes that associated with practice or experience leading to relatively permanent changes in the capability for skilled behavior. So in other words, motor learning is when complex processes in the brain occur in response to practice or experience of a certain skill, resulting in changes in the central nervous system that allow for a production of a new motor skill. So there are three stages in which motor learning occurs. So the first one is the cognitive stage. So during this initial stage of motor learning, the goal is to develop an overall understanding of the skill. And the second one is associative stage. So during this stage, the learner begins to demonstrate a more refined movement through practice. And the final stage that we are going to discuss today is the autonomous stage. So during this final stage of learning, the motor skill becomes mostly automatic. Progression to this level of learning allows the learner to perform the skill in any environment with very little cognitive involvement compared to the first stage, the cognitive stage. So we have here an example. So if your child will now be able to walk in a predictable environment such as in your home, or an unpredictable environment such as a crowded birthday party at the park on grass without difficulty. So keep in mind that the learning process can take different lengths of time for every individual, and progression can be dependent on a variety of factors such as motivations of the learner and also feedback that the learners received, or the environmental stimuli, the organizations of practice, and the presence of musculoskeletal or neuromuscular impairments.
So I have an example of final stage of learning, which is the assigned topic of Miss Panorel. So the example of final stage of learning is the school age. So school age children are 6 to 12 years old. They are capable, confident, independent, and responsible. Peer relationships, particularly relationships with friends of the same gender, are important to school-age children. So, the older school-age child begins to develop sexual characteristics.
I am going to give you more about important details of the autonomous stage. So, autonomous stage means that the athlete does not have to think about the skill he or she is performing, allowing their mind to focus on other events or processes around them. It means that they can focus on reading the play and selecting the perfect pass rather than thinking about the pass itself. So that means that in this autonomous stage, the athletes can now easily recall the skills they need by focusing on a certain event or certain sport without any performing.
Athletes can now be able to recognize when the skill is performed incorrectly. At the autonomous stage, the athlete is already aware how to perform a skill correctly or incorrectly. For example, in a basketball game, a point guard who is the dribbler of the team, he is dribbling the ball and he will going to pass the ball to his teammates. So before he will going to pass the ball, he is already aware how to pass it correctly or incorrectly. Like the opponent is taller than him in front of him, who is guarding the point guard, is he shouldn't pass the ball overhead. The point guard should pass the ball bounce pass so that the opponent, or I mean the defender, cannot intercept the ball. So that's why at the autonomous stage, the athlete is already aware how to pass the ball correctly and incorrectly.
So in this stage, the athlete is no longer focused on his or her skill. In this stage, the movement comes naturally, so the athlete can focus in the other aspects of competition, such as who to pass the ball, how to beat the defensive player, or where to hit the forehand.
The autonomous stage means that the athlete does not have to think about the skill he or she is performing, allowing their mind to focus on other events or processes around them. It means they can focus on reading the play and selecting the perfect pass rather than thinking about the pass itself.
Autonomous stage means that the athlete does not have to think about the skill he or she is performing. Now, the key for this beginner is to continue practicing their basic step skills. For example, shooting the ball in the basket. I think all of us here knows how to handle or shoot the ball to the basket, but not that consistent. Unlike the NBA players perfectly execute the drills in basketball, like shooting the ball to the rim, they do that perfectly by continue practicing.
Example of the autonomous stage in learning. A rugby player passing the ball in gameplay is a prime example. Not only do they have to receive the ball, they also need to be specially aware of the location of opposition players trying to attack them, support their own players, and decide who to pass to, while still throwing the ball with accuracy, perfect timing, and the optimal tactical advantage. In this scenario may take place in just 2 to 3 seconds, when a sport person can execute a skill effortlessly without stress. They are at most like in the autonomous stage.